Throw that planned podcast through the window. Agriculture, my foot. This is about life and death, mainly death. This is the 71st episode of the Frankly Speaking Jamaica podcast. Thank you for joining me. I didn't know Kenneth Downer, the man approaching his 91st birthday, who was shot and killed at his home in St. Ann Thursday afternoon last. But people who knew him are shaken to the core. I didn't know Mr. Downer, but the whole thing shook me like a 7.6 earthquake and slammed into me like a tsunami. Thousands of people feel that every year in Jamaica because of the loss of a loved one or someone they knew. I didn't know Kenneth Downer, and he's not a national figure or bigwig either. In Jamaica, every year for the last 20 years, 1,000 or more people, 1,000 or more, like and unlike Kenneth Downer, have been murdered every year. Yes, you have heard that figure before, so what? It's not normal. And the government of Andrew Holness and his opposition in the parliament, led by Mark Golding, must be reminded it's not normal. It's not acceptable. And what we have been doing about it is not good enough. Before my Frankly Speaking commentary in full, Desmond Richards joins in this podcast too and looks at the internal politics of no rollback and the new cabinet. First, though, Winnie Anderson Brown on no gender violence.
I am deeply saddened by the murder of Constable Blair in Manchester during the past week. I express condolences to his family at this time. And it would be remiss of me not to use this opportunity to remind us as Jamaicans that the way that we treat with domestic violence is a problem. The notion that men are usually the perpetrators, that notion is false. Violence, abuse, call it what you will, domestic violence, domestic abuse is not about gender. It's a people thing. There are abusive men and there are abusive women. And during the past week, so many men have spoken up. I am happy for that some men are coming out and talking about this. There are so many men who have been hurting over the years. Jamaica, it is time that we do something about it to save our men who are in abusive relationships as well. This is why I don't believe in this gender thing. And every time I hear, oh, don't hurt us, we are young. I don't remember if they said children, mothers, whatever. Because every time I hear don't hurt us, and I hear the female voice as if men are always hurting women, I am so annoyed when I hear that advertisement that I just want to turn off the radio and walk away. So once I hear they don't hurt us, as if it's only men hurting women, I'm so annoyed. Anyway, it is time for us to change the way we approach domestic abuse and level the playing field so that men who are abused can speak up.
That's Winnie Anderson Brown. Now, the Frankly Speaking, my commentary. Frankly speaking, we can't just go on like this. And then again, we can, because we have been going on like this for a while yet. Kenneth Downer was 90, having served with integrity and fearlessness as a public health inspector in St. Ann. I say I didn't know him. But when a friend called me and told me the shocking news Thursday, he, my friend, normally emotionless, and straight up with the facts, didn't know what to say. He had been gutted by the murder. I called someone who I felt would know Inspector Donna, who is still called Speck. She said she felt as if she had no knees. She was coming apart at her knees, she said. The response all around has been shock, and yet we go on like this. You see, Kenneth Downer was at his house. The reports are that a man went to the house and asked for money. Said he demanded money. Mr. Downer, who came to the door, accompanied by his helper, Mr. Downer, they say, didn't really get it. And in fact, on with age, he said, so whose son or who's your mother again? What you say you want? And so on. The helper got it and said she was going to get some money. And she went inside. Then the gunshots. Mr. Downer was dead. Was dead. We have become hardened now. And then one like this shakes us up. In our little corner, in St. Anne, for example, and all the people in Brownstown and surrounding communities feel that. Nobody else seems to care. It's too far away. We have lost count. We don't remember the name of the one we heard last week. We drop by the family. We say a few words. We are going on like this. We are going on like this, frankly speaking. For me, doing these podcasts, I don't bother with the crime, partly because people are distressed and frustrated that nothing is changing about it. And there are some people, especially who live overseas, who don't want the news out. Not that. Today I was going to return to the far reaches of rural Jamaica and discuss the present and continuing failure of agriculture that has left so many of our people mired in poverty. And I will get back to that. But today, frankly speaking, I must say that political leadership in Jamaica has wasted opportunities to deal with violence and crime. Over the years, PNP and JLP, over the years and continuing today. There is no bigger threat to this nation, our ability to grow, our security, our quality of life. No greater threat to that than crime and violence. All the other things fade before this colossal of crime. And yet, frankly speaking, the two political leaders of the two main political parties have not sat down in a room for a few hours, as you and a friend might, and decide that there are some things we must do about crime. Don't tell me about CMOC and Security Council and the new legislation over sentencing. Tell me when Mark Golding and Andrew Holness have sat down and said this must stop. We must grab crime and violence by the neck and drag it down and make Jamaica free and breathe again. And here is what we will do. Here are some areas of agreement between PNP and JLP. This is a united front. Yes, we are going to have disagreements. You know who could bring them together? The IMF. But they are not into that business. They were in it for the economy in 2013, 2014. Frankly speaking, if there was any use for the ceremonial figurehead, he would find a way of dragging Holness and Golding together. What an opportunity for leadership, for someone to decide that this must end and take the steps, make the statements and the approaches, set the procedures in motion, and frankly speaking, involve this entire nation in stopping the crime. Yes, I know it will take years because it took years to get here, but we haven't started really. This is not naivety or panic. It's understanding that Jamaicans deserve better. We deserve better. Better leadership requires in Jamaica that old age and time and illness and time take the life of Kenneth Downer and hundreds like him. Not the gunman's bullet or the violent man's knife. It's time. Here now is Desmond Richards.
Viewers and listeners and all Jamaicans must or should observe the deafening silence from the parliamentarians and councillors to that horrendous salary increase. It is clear that they are in agreement with the salary increases. Yes, and it is very difficult to get a word from them. They are in agreement. At least one cabinet minister told me that the last time ministers were receive a pay increase was some 30 years ago. So it is clear that they are in support and they want the increases. And what do you make of the Prime Minister's cabinet reshuffle? It hardly look like changes. It hardly look like what we're accustomed to. I saw where Pernell Charles Jr. was shifted to another ministry. Well, this is his fourth, fourth assignment since he was elected. At first, he was deputy to the former security minister, Bobby Montague. And then he was moved to the office of the Prime Minister where he supervised housing and water until he was appointed Minister of Agriculture, and now he is back at Labour and Security. He's certainly moving around. But it would appear as if the Prime Minister changed his mind, because there was news that there would be changes at the Ministry of Education. The current Minister, Favour Williams, would be removed. Johnson Smith from Foreign Affairs. But no, that did not happen at all. And so it is clear that apparently what the Prime Minister had in mind, he did not execute that. And this slate that he has is the slate that is going to go into the elections. Now, one thing is clear is that the protests about the salary increase continues. People are still upset. And I know that this is going to cost the government. And the next elections, that is where we expect the results will play out. Some JLP backers, I understand, are hoping that Chris Tufton will launch a leadership challenge to the Prime Minister. I hardly think that is going to happen now. Elections are too close for that. But let us see what happens. The people are still upset with the salary increases and the performance of the government in all areas. Crime is out of control. Education, health facilities, all the major elements of the government, they are in need of action. People are not getting the results that they deserve. Let us see what happens.
That's Desmond Richards, journalist and founder of internet radio, Rebel Radio Jamaica. Thank you for joining us for this, the 74th episode of the Frankly Speaking Jamaica podcast. Please subscribe and share with your friends. On behalf of Winnie Anderson Brown and Desmond Richards, I'm Franklin McKnight. Until then.